It's a coming-of-age story, deeply personal, by James Gray. Should you watch it? I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and I'm going to uncomfortably tackle Armageddon time. I'm a blind film critic, so I watched this film with audio description. And it's the audio description here. I rented the film off of iTunes, and it was done by the lovely Adrienne Barbeau. I don't know why I want her last name to be Barbeau. So the standout here, before I forget their names, are Banks Rapida and Jalen Webb, who played the two little kids that are caught in this coming-of-age tale. In many respects, they're absolutely fantastic little child performers. Jalen Webb, in particular, has a lot. He has a lot put on him. Just the weight of the world is put on that boy's shoulders, and he navigates this film perfectly. But what is Armageddon Time? It's a ridiculous name for this film. And I think that's why the film isn't doing well. This is one of those films that is supposed to be Oscar bait. And I've seen them talk about, ooh, maybe so-and-so will get nominated. Ooh, maybe this will happen. Ooh, maybe this... I think this film's been nominated for anything. Is there a critics circle out there that gave us an award or something? This film has been almost universally ignored by everybody. It's not a bad film, but it's a film. And it really, it makes me, I don't watch enough interviews with people. That's what I was thinking about coming into this, is I was like, man, I wish I had, watched James Gray explain what his purpose for Armageddon Time was. Like, how close to his real childhood is this? Is he speaking for the Banks Rapida character in this? Is that him? Is he Paul? Or is he speaking for Jalen Webb's character? Like, who did he grow up reflective of? Is he on the inside looking out, or is he on the outside looking in? I just don't know enough about James Gray. He's a director that film people know, but if we're all being honest, he's not the greatest. I mean, he's fine, but if he was the greatest, his films would either be box office bonanzas, or we'd be nominating them across the board. And his films, traditionally, they get those, yeah, that was a good film reaction. But not like, oh my god, we have to get this. Where are my awards consideration ballots? Where are they? I have to vote for him. I mean, I guess his high profile is Ad Astra. It would probably be the biggest, for normal film people, to be like, oh, he's the Ad Astra guy. And it's yeah, he's the Ad Astra guy, but there's nothing really in his film career that suggests that he should have been directing that. He directs a lot more sort of independent. He's good with on the street movies, The Yards and We Own the Night. Sort of getting out there and doing those gritty sort of street crime drama type movies. I think Ad Astra was definitely a swing for him. It's like giving Noah Baumbach what I've heard was $200 million to do White Noise. I'm just who on earth would give him that much money to do that film? I'm hoping that is a lie. But here we are with Armageddon Time. It's full of little racial connotations, and not just because our two leads are white and black, actually Jewish and black. To be 100% correct here, this is the film that Kanye has been looking for, to be yeah, see the Jews, they hate us. but they kind of drop a lot about everybody. This is why it's a weird film. It's very weird for me coming in here as a white person to watch a film about a Jewish family and a black kid, and be like, well, how did I feel about it? I want to be like, I don't know. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about these depictions? I was kind of appalled by a lot of it, and I think that was the point. Jeremy Strong here is incredible, but he's not likable at all. And actually, by the time he tries to come back around at the end, and he gives this like actual sort of useful father-son speech towards the end of the film, I already fucking hated him. Like, so the speech didn't even resonate with me. It was just like, oh, god damn it, Jeremy Strong. It's just, I mean, this film did nothing to redeem him. We didn't even get scenes with him being nice to Anne Hathaway. Like, he just was never, maybe that's because the kid never saw it, but there were scenes, at least in something like The Fabelmans, where the parents were interacting and having fun, and not constantly just in this frenzy. And the kids got to see that, you know, at least as the little kid, the little version of Sammy Fabelman before he grows up and goes, oh my god, what did I just capture on camera? But at least the little kid version, which is comparable to the Paul character here, is needs to be able to look and say, oh, at least my dad loves my mom. No, he's just kind of like a blustering, bombastic ass the whole time. And there's one hell of a scene where he beats the ever-loving shit out of Banks for PETA. I'm not even gonna hide that spoiler bag. I mean, he Jean-Claude Van Damme's in a door and just wails on Banks for PETA. I was like, oh my god. And it's the kind of stuff that like nobody does. We've all agreed we can't. And I know he's trying to say, like, back in my day, my parents used to be able to beat on me and I'm fine. And it's like, oh, are you? Because you made this film. So I don't know if you are. I don't really know what to think about anything with this film. I want to put a question mark. I want my grade to be question mark. This film. My grade is, I don't know. I don't think, I don't know if James Gray himself is Jewish and this is how he feels like he wants to depict his faith, but I don't know, maybe he just doesn't, maybe he doesn't like Jewish people, like maybe he's not like self-practicing and he doesn't mind projecting them in the worst light. Maybe he wants to show them in a certain way. The film also, you know, I hate the stereotype that they throw upon Jalen Webb's character. He is basically the only black character with any substantial screen time in the entire, I mean, like, there are other black characters that walk in and out of this movie, but he's the only one with actual substantial screen time. And as soon as we're introduced to him, the first fucking minute we are introduced to this kid, he's been held back. The first fucking time we meet a black kid in this film, it's the black kid who's been held back a year. It's the black kid who can't, you know, who's a troublemaker. He curses. He's aggressively angry towards the teacher. He's, you know, he feels like this, like, walking stereotype, and he's the only representation in that film because the film uses him as a friendship to Banks's lead character of Paul. Like, it's his best friend. Like, Paul and him get along. Paul accepts him. It's that childhood innocence which is actually kind of amazing because when you go home, Paul's family is like super racist. They're all like, well, they'll let anybody into those schools now. They're letting the blacks in, and it's just so it's like it's amazing that he has such that open mind and open heart to begin with, to just be like, because you see later on, you see kids that are his age and they're dropping the N-word left and right. Like their parents probably are the same level as racist as his parents, and they're just like, have you seen the Enners? It's like, what did you just say? What are you, like 6, 7? How old are these kids? So I don't even know what it says about teachable racism. You know what I'm saying? Like trickle down racism. Like when you have a family that is casually using words, because the film wants you to accept Paul as being this beacon of hope for like humanity. Like he's this kid, he's got a black friend, and they're gonna be best friends forever. And they have plans, and they're just gonna go about their life, screw the rest of the world, right? But at home, clearly, his family does not like people of other races. There's one point where Paul tries to call. He doesn't like the food that he's being served, so he tries to call in a food order, and his dad calls in from the other room and says, no ching chong food tonight. This is the kind of film you're dealing with. There was something where Anne Hathaway said they were walking away from a movie. What was the movie that they saw? It's a real movie. Private Benjamin. And she said something like the Japs. And I'm like, what is... Oh my God, are we just trying to get through all of them? Like, are we trying to... Like, their family is just racist against everybody. They're just dropping, just as many, racial slurs as humanly possible. And yet, this one kid is just like, yeah, he's my best friend, and he's black. And he just... There's nothing about that, He later asks his grandpa, Anthony Hopkins, who's terrific in this film, but I wouldn't nominate him. If I had to nominate anybody, it would be Jeremy Strong, because I didn't think Jeremy Strong was capable of this performance. But Anthony Hopkins is just, he's playing the doting grandfather, sort of world-worn. It's I can list like 10 performances from Anthony Hopkins that are more impactful and more diverse, and more just, I don't know, electric, whatever. He'll be remembered for anything more than this. But he's great because he's Anthony Hopkins, so he's not bad. But he just pretty much sits and offers advice. It's like an extended version of what the uncle is for Sammy Fabelman in The Fabelmans, which is interesting too, because that's a Jewish family, but Steven Spielberg didn't feel the need to paint his family as extraordinarily racist. Just ridiculous. This comes about around the time that Reagan's elected president. I know because there's a scene in the film where they vote for Reagan for president. So if you're wondering, like, the time period, Spielberg's family also comes from a period where there was more of that. And Spielberg wanted you to experience the racism towards Jews in The Fabelmans, whereas for whatever reason, James Gray wants you to experience outward racism coming from Jews. They don't really experience a whole lot of towards Jews racism in this. There isn't a lot of anti-Semitism in this. It's hinted at and reflected upon, but not in the way that The Fabelmans touches on it. It's more like Anthony Hopkins' character, the older characters, sort of hint on back in the day type stuff, but not really in. It's like by 1980 we've solved anti-Semitism, or Reagan, whenever Reagan, and it was 1980. 1980. I was right. So, yeah, I don't know what he's trying to say with this film, and I'm so confused. This film confused the shit out of me because it makes me uncomfortable. It's very weird. I don't know why there's only like one black kid, and like his family is not represented. I don't know why this couldn't be divided. I don't know why he keeps talking about like how he has a grandmother at home, but he never goes home. I know eventually he decides he makes a choice. Jalen Webb, his character makes a decision to, leave school, obviously because he's being treated like shit, and just go about the world on his own, but we don't really ever see a whole lot of other stuff from his perspective. It's just like every time Jalen Webb shows up, he always has to show up with a chip on his shoulder, and he always has to show up world worn. You know what I'm saying? Like world weary, because James Gray doesn't feel the need to necessarily show us Jalen Webb's struggles outside. We get glimpses of it when Paul is with him, but we don't get glimpses when Paul is not with him. It's like the film has to have Paul in every scene, Banks for PETA, or it can't function. So, I don't think the film really works. I don't know what it's trying to achieve. It's got a weird title. They think this kid is stupid. They think Paul is stupid because he wants to be an artist. And there's that whole angle that they rope into the film. There's a lot of themes and thoughts here. And I get why this film is being ignored, but it's got great acting in it. That's the one thing I will stand up and say, hey, this film has phenomenal. Not a single person in this cast did a bad job. But there's a whole other theme that they weave in here about wanting to be an artist and being looked down upon as being incapable of being able to provide for yourself, which obviously James Gray, I'm sure, got at some point when he was like, I want to be a director, and his parents were like, no, why don't you study computer science? That's a growth industry. Some asinine comment his dad makes in the movie about being an artist. So yeah, it's even got that interwoven in there, and Paul is thought of as being slow because he likes to doodle in class, but it doesn't really give like an explanation of why. So it just kind of makes his teachers look like assholes, because there's one teacher who obviously looks at his work and goes, oh, you like to draw, well, let's just embrace that and we'll move on, and then there's another teacher that's like, you like to draw, you must be stupid, we'll send you we'll hold you back, we'll put you in the decelerated courses or whatever, remedial courses. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, this is a weird film. I can see why I don't think it really got a super wide release. I don't think it did well at the box office. It's not going to get any Oscar nominations. But this is it for James Gray. This is like this is him going, this is my personal film. Up against in the same year when other people are making their personal films. And I don't know what to tell James Gray. I don't know how much of this is true. I don't know what about his life. I don't know what this says. I don't know what to feel. I wish I had been able to see more reactions to this film from Black and Jewish communities. I don't think it portrays either of them in a good light, which is bizarre because he must be trying to portray something in some kind of light, unless he's nihilist and it's just trying to be like, fuck the world, everything sucked in my childhood. Maybe that's the point of the film, is James Gray is like, my childhood was terrible. I'm gonna make a film about my terrible childhood, my fucking asshole parents. You know, that's totally, maybe that's valid. I don't know. Maybe he hates his parents. But Anne Hathaway isn't even likable in this. She walks around and for there are moments where there are glimpses that she might have like a like that Michelle Williams quality. I keep comparing this to The Fabelmans because there's so much to compare here. I could do a separate video of the, you know, comparing to The Fabelmans, but yeah, there's nothing really to. She just kind of, she actually knows that her husband is going to beat the ever-loving shit out of her kid, and she's like, she like sicks him on him, and I'm like, now I don't like you as a character. Like, how do I? What is the takeaway from that? You know, that you get your husband riled up so that he like breaks down a door so that he can beat his son. That's literally what happens. This is such a baffling movie. And the sad thing is that for Banks Rapita and Jalen Webb, they were phenomenal in this film. The stuff that they were handed as little child actors, they're not, I don't know if they're that little, but I made them sound like they're 4. As child actors, it's amazing. It was like what Mason Thames had to do earlier this year in The Black Phone. All the heavy stuff that he had to work through, you know, being a kidnapped child. There's a lot of heavy stuff here, and I mean, Jalen Webb has to be representative of an entire race. You know, he has to constantly come in and put his blackness on display in a time period when everybody is having a certain struggle, because James Gray won't represent that on film. He'll represent through this family, you know, but he won't really show us the Jalen Webb story. The I forget his character's name. Yeah, it's just anyway, it's great. I hope the 2 kids get cast over and over and over, and I have not given Jeremy Strong enough credit in his lifetime for a performance like this. I mean, after watching his other stuff, there's nothing in Jeremy Strong's resume where I was like, yep, yeah, he could pull this off. But I'm terrified of him now. He is, for a tiny little man, he is full of rage, and just that was a hell of a scene. That was like it's like the Michael Fassbender scene that got him the Oscar nomination in 12 Years a Slave. It's really uncomfortable to watch, just for entirely different reasons, because it's a kid. I don't know visually that it has the same graphic / gore as the other, and obviously it doesn't mean the same thing as 12 Years a Slave, Michael Fassbender, but there's something very disconcerting about watching an extended sequence of a father that wants to beat his kid that badly, you know. I don't know. I have a hard time putting this in a ranking, in a score, where it's like, don't watch this, because I think the acting here, especially from the little kids, like I don't want people to not see Banks and Jalen. I want people to watch their performances, but there's a whole lot of baggage on this film, and I would say just be really careful going into this. This is not a film for everybody, which is why it's been universally ignored. So, James Gray made a divisive film that, oddly enough, not enough people are talking about being divisive. So, yeah, of course, Adrienne Barbeau's narration here is fantastic. In particular, I really like, there's a scene might as well. I've already talked about several spoilers throughout this film. There's a scene where Jalen's in handcuffs and Paul is not. Banks is not in handcuffs, and she keeps sort of reminding that he's still in handcuffs, that the black kid is the one that's in handcuffs, even though they've both essentially been arrested for the same thing. She makes sure to let us know, and it goes with the theme of the film. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like Adrienne understood what the film was about, or what it was trying to say, and knew what to focus on in certain scenes, and show us. She's really great at describing the facial expressions of these kids that are emoting and carrying this film on their backs. I'm gonna be a little bit nicer to this film because I really want people to see Banks and Jalen. I want their performances deserve to be watched, and to some extent Jeremy Strong, but I don't really care if people watch his performance because his character is unlikable. But Banks and Jalen have this weird, awesome relationship that's buried somewhere within the complications of this film. There's a great little story to be told, but it's like it's like trying to find. It's like if somebody told you, "Here's a turducken, there's another bird in there, find it," and you're like, "Okay, so I've got a turkey, a duck, and a chicken. What the fuck is the other bird, and where is it?" You know. But somebody tells you that other bird is really great, and you're trying to like search through 3 other birds to get to this other bird. Like, where is it? I don't know. Is it in the middle? Like, how small is it? Like, somewhere in there, there's this really cool thing that's happening between these 2 kids. And that is what I'll say. So if you think my grade is being a little too nice, it is because I think these 2 little kids that nobody knows in a cast that features Anne Hathaway and Anthony Hopkins are the reason to watch the film. Terrific child actors. Hollywood, please cast them again. The stuff they were given is just way above their pay grade. It's amazing stuff. So, to Banks and Jalen, great work. You saved Armageddon time for me. I'm going to give Armageddon time a B-. Very complicated, very dark. I still have no idea what this film is trying to say or what James Gray wanted us to take away from it. But I took away from it, there are 2 little child actors out there that deserve immediately to be cast in like 5 new projects. If Hollywood does not cast them in 5 new things, something is wrong. So, there you go. Hopefully Jalen and Banks have huge careers ahead of them. I would go see things because they were in them. So there you go. It's been a very actually strong year for child performers. I was actually waiting to do my child performer top 10 list until I saw this film because I had heard these performances were good. So that's it. Please subscribe. I know this review is really long. This film is really complicated and hard to talk about. And I'm a blind white guy. And it's like, I felt kind of uncomfortable reviewing the film, to be honest. Felt like I was listening to a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. And I don't know. But that's what I do here. I review films. No matter what. Just audio description is, that's why I review films with audio description, to tell you, is the audio description effective? How good is it? What makes it work? What doesn't make it work? And here, the audio description worked great. So subscribe so we can keep talking about audio description, so that we can keep getting it put on more and more projects going down the line. Thank you for watching. I also have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can follow me on Twitter at macthemovieguy. You can follow me on Instagram at macthemovieguy. You can go to the Audio Description Project, adp.acb.org, and you can find a movie on there and find out where you can watch it. You can go to the ADNA.org and you can look up Adrienne Barbeau. Jesus, I did it again. And you can see what other films she has described before. Maybe you've heard her voice. I'm pretty certain you have. I've heard her voice many times. So, anyway, thanks for being here, and I will review something else for you guys that hopefully is way less complicated than this. I had no idea what I was getting myself into here. And I will see you on the other side.